Welcome to the Noodle Rave, the podcast that asks the small whys that may turn out to be bigger than you think. My name is Nick, and I am the host of this gravest of raves. Today I have a very special guest on this very first episode. It is a good friend of mine, and a person with some strong opinions and ideas, and enjoyments out of a particular series. Please welcome the esteemed ShadowLeggy. How are you doing today, Leggy?
I'm good.
Excellent. Well, today we'll be discussing a topic very close to your heart, Resident Evil. Specifically, the series as a whole and some choices they've made. And as is the point of the Noodle Rave, we will be looking into, or at least speaking about, the reason why you like some of the choices they made in the original games. Which, I know your opinion tends to be a controversial one in some circles.
Yeah. People get mad.
People get a little wound up about the things they enjoy. But that's what we're here to discover, why people like certain things. So first off, we'll just kind of dive right in. So the plot of the first three games is kind of campy, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, the full motion video of the first game in particular didn't assist the serious tone they were attempting. Now, I like the campy writing, but a lot of people feel that it didn't serve it, and that it trying to be serious while coming off campy didn't really help it out. So how do you feel about the original plot thread of Resident Evil?
Well, the plot itself, I think, is fine, but I think most of the campiness just comes from the fact that it's like The Room of video games, where they tried to make it really serious, but the resources they had didn't lend themselves to that. They just picked up English-speaking voice actors off the street, pretty much, like, hey, you want to be in this game? And they're terrible. It's amazing. But it definitely doesn't lend itself to horror, at least not in the cutscenes. I think the actual gameplay itself is fine and very tense at moments, but yeah, the voice acting and writing is definitely just wow. Good.
Now, there's an argument to be made about the fact that it was I imagine, written originally in Japanese, and sometimes that doesn't translate well. As we all know, the infamous how can you say you love her if you can't eat her poop line, which is, known in some circles as it's just bad translation. At least I think
that's as bad as it gets.
Pretty much. Now, I know you don't like the plot of Resident Evil 4, but
yeah.
To me and to most, because it was already sort of campy in the original games, intentional or otherwise, that it embracing, Capcom most of the time don't necessarily write a brilliant story. Sometimes they do. The Devil May Cry, I think they honestly write their best stories when they are writing action stories. That's why I feel, Devil May Cry wasn't genius, if you know what I mean. It wasn't a dramatic tale as old as time, but it was a lot of fun, and the plot didn't really hinder it. It didn't derail too much or do anything too stupid. You know what I mean?
I think so.
So when it comes to the plot of 4, it was them, I feel, embracing the campiness, but you tend to dislike that.
For me, that kind of kills it, because it's just endearing campiness that was accidental versus, in my opinion, being a try-hard.
That does make sense. Now, why do you feel the try-hard campiness doesn't appeal to you in particular?
For me, I don't know. It just comes off as trying to be way too cool when it's just not. It tries to be campy and cool, and I don't know. Some people like that. I just don't. Leon, the character, I don't know. There's a lot of things that go into RE4 in general that just don't sit well with me. Just the fact that they jump the timeline, so the character acts completely different, and then they cram in this try-hard campiness, and it's a perfect storm of me no likey.
That does make sense to a degree. The jumping of the timeline, I actually didn't play the original Resident Evil 2, so I wouldn't know its timeline itself, but I feel the whole Save the President's Daughter actually lent itself well, and I felt the campiness was just right, but I like over-the-top action.
Yeah.
Because I like that, I like almost the Unreal Hero. He's good at what he does, but he doesn't know he's good at what he does. And at the same time, he's playing happy slaps with, midget Napoleon, which that
God.
that gave me a good laugh.
Yeah. for me, it's like the Resident Evil series in general, since 4, it's like this awkward balance of trying to be over the top, but then not quite going all the way. Because then you have a game like Bayonetta, which I think is fucking hilarious, and I love it, and it's just so ridiculous, because they go all the way. It's just fucking crazy. But 4 and 5 and all them, they try to go over the top, but then they play it really fucking safe, too. So, it's just, I don't like it. It's like either go all out or don't go at all.
Do you think you would have enjoyed Resident Evil 4 if it hadn't been a Resident Evil game? If it had been like, you know, Dave's Spaniard Adventures?
Probably. I probably would have enjoyed it more. Like, I wouldn't prefer it over, like, the old Resident Evil games. Like, it wouldn't be like, oh, this is my new favorite franchise. This is my new favorite franchise, but I would probably be like, oh, this is a cool game. It's fun to shoot things.
Now, with in that same breath where they kind of changed things up, Resident Evil 7 changed the formula completely again. And from my understanding, you're not like dying over that game, but you enjoyed it.
It was okay, yeah. Shouldn't have been called Resident Evil, but it was an alright game. It definitely lost its momentum halfway through, though. The first half is fine. The rest is like, okay, is this over yet?
Yeah, I do hear that a lot. So what do you think differentiates the two? Because you say you at least enjoyed Resident Evil 7 to a degree, but you have
and honestly with 4, I can swallow my pride and say I enjoyed 4 up until you get to the castle, and the rest of the game is just trash for me after that. I hate it. But the village parts are fine because they're actually a little creepy, and you're like low on supplies and everything, and it at least is in a setting that is kind of cool, kind of realistic, and then all of a sudden you're in a fucking castle with midget statues that come sentient and chase you. And it's like, okay.
Castlevania, yeah. I could see that. I mean, I think at the same time we do have to kind of accept the wackiness of. We don't have to, but I think it's not a bad idea to accept the strangeness of like the statues, for example, because some of the puzzles in the original game were pretty bizarre.
Yeah, like they at least had an explanation. This is why I kind of just say that Resident Evil should have just ended sometime before 4, whether it like had a conclusion or not. It should have just been cut, and they should have just tried something new. Like the old games had explanations, even if they're like far-fetched. It's like, okay, the mansion's like this because the creator, he hired this amazing architect, and he's a very old man with old-fashioned tastes and likes cloak and dagger shit. And then even the second one with weird puzzles, it was like, well, this used to be a weird old art museum, and the chief also went crazy and hid everything intentionally. And then the third one, I can't remember many of the reasons for the puzzles, but they didn't seem like too outlandish. It was mostly just like, oh, you need this key and you need to fix this mechanical thing to get to the next place. Just city shit, basically. And then Code Veronica kind of harkened back to the original because the Ashfords were obsessed with Umbrella, and they even had their own like mansion clone, and that's probably the wildest of the original games, but it's still, like, enjoyable in a way, just because the Ashfords are so fucking crazy.
See, I can get behind all that because, as a fan of Castlevania, I'm a fan of, like, the crazy rich nutters making shit.
Yeah.
It's like, we can't just have the bathroom. There has to be 3 switches, a secret wall, and then you can take your shit.
Yeah, but then it just felt different in 4 because, like, there's a little backtracking in the beginning, but then a lot of the game is just a hallway forward, and it's just like, just go on the path until you find the item that you need, and then we'll dump you back into the main hall where you need to use it. I don't know, the whole thing was strange. I remember specifically, too, like, you would find these notes, and, like, in the older games, you know, notes would reveal stuff about the past, like, oh, this happened here, and this is my record of what happened here. But in 4, it's like every note you find was written like 5 minutes before you found it, and it's like the stupidest fucking thing. I hate it. It's so dumb.
I can understand that. Honestly, I mean, I think we can both agree that 1.6 is trash.
Yes.
I mean, 5 was pretty bad, but you know, it had co-op, enjoyable co-op.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
the
the
thing.
co-op was awful, but my sister and I played it. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But with 6, what they did with the herbs and like the pills and the way they did that.
Like if any of these games is a fucking hallway, that game is a hallway. That game literally feels like you're in a programmed game that has nothing outside the walls, and you're just in this claustrophobic programmed hallway. Like there's nothing else to it.
You know what? It's very like set piecey.
Yeah, it's like I am playing a video game. There's no immersion.
Yeah.
It's fucking trash.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand why they wanted to make the Resident Evil 4 lightning basically strike twice.
Yeah, they've been trying that for
Ilio.
years, and it just has not happened.
I mean, it was a fun game. It made and to transition into our next topic, it made the controls better. Now, I, for one, was not big on the tank controls, because it made it so...
Can I interrupt you and say that's actually kind of funny? Because a lot of people forget 4 has tank controls.
Oh, let me correct myself and say the tank control aiming.
Okay.
Like the snap aiming, I mean, yeah, he still controls sort of like a tank, but it's easier to drive a forklift from inside of it rather than over the top of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah, he does still turn like a freaking bulldozer, but it's much easier to orient yourself with the environment with there being no fixed camera. Mind you, I am not a fan of fixed camera, period. It is awful, especially when you're trying to navigate very elaborate structures, like in Devil May Cry.
Right.
Where it's like, this staircase is thwarting me and I am dying because I cannot get the camera to obey. But to speak more on that, the tank controls, at least combat-wise, in the first 3 games, I wasn't a big fan of, because eventually it just became me walking past the enemies I didn't need to kill. Like, I felt more like they weren't a threat, they were aggressive, like, traffic barriers. Which, I do know a lot of people agree with, that the over-the-shoulder boulder holder, the over-shoulder control style assisted in the combat, made it much easier to not waste ammunition, which is precious in a survival horror game. Now, I know you're a contrary opinion to that.
Yeah.
You do prefer the tank controls, at least when it comes to the Resident Evil 2 Remake. You were upset that there is not an option for the classic controls.
Well, even at this point, if they had the option, it would be unplayable, but continue.
Now, I mean, objectively, the fixed camera angle tank controls are just a more difficult way to control the character. I mean, whether you enjoy them or don't enjoy them, they are a more difficult, less user-friendly way of controlling the characters. But I do know you enjoy them. Now, why do you think you are drawn towards that particular control scheme? Why does it work well for you?
Well, even beyond enjoyment, I say objectively, tank controls and fixed cameras go together like bread and butter. Because there's another game from that similar time period I played, which was Final Fantasy VII. Granted, it's not like an action game, but just the simple concept of it had fixed cameras and it had analog control, only analog control. Every time you walk off of one screen into another screen, that means the forward direction button changes. 9 times out of 10, I go careening off the screen right back onto the first one because the controls flip. Tank controls don't have that problem. You spend a few minutes just getting used to how it works, because it is strange at first, but you play around for a few minutes and you just get it in your head like, oh, okay, up is forward, left is left, right is right, I just need to keep an eye on the camera, and I'm good. And that's it.
Now, to play devil's advocate with that, there are better control schemes. Now, because the original Resident Evil did have the screen transitions, the tank controls did keep you from careening straight back into other rooms, especially since you had to, in a lot of them, interact with the door. It did make pursuit scenes difficult, though, when you had to round a corner to run from something, because you would stop like no human would and have to like readjust.
You don't really have to stop. You just turn yourself in the direction you need to go. If you've played up to a point where you're getting chased by something fast, you should probably be used to the controls by then. True,
but ultimately, isn't it better to have a control style you don't need to get necessarily used to, if you get what I'm saying?
I mean, I kind of need to get used to pretty much any over-the-shoulder game, because usually all the buttons are different in some way. They can't be changed.
True. But,
and aiming.
Well, aiming is just like in any other first-person shooter, or any shooter at all, except you have to prep your gun.
Right.
Which was a carryover from the original, honestly. Well, it wouldn't work if your gun was prepped all the time, honestly, for the sake of interacting and puzzling and such. I almost feel like the original Resident Evil would almost have been better as like a Metroidvania-style platformer. Because I can't tell you how many times, like, even after hours of playing, that I just wasted ammunition because I couldn't tell precisely where I was aiming.
Well, you really only need to just aim forward. Like, I know the very original Resident Evil didn't have, like, an automatic aim, but
yeah,
pretty much, like, after Director's Cut and every game after that does. Like, you just go into the settings, set it to Option C, and there you go, auto-aim.
Yeah, the snap aiming was much better. I played 3. The snap aiming was much better.
Yeah. That's pretty much how. That's the only way I've ever played the games, honestly. So.
Right. Well, that makes sense. But it's still, I feel that an over-the-shoulder camera couldn't help but improve because it is a less difficult form of control. It is a more precise form of control. When it comes to combat, which combat is the only thing where you need like snap momentary movements. I mean, puzzles, you don't require, oh god, I need to move this in a nanosecond, otherwise I'm going to die. I mean, there's a few timed ones, there's exceptions, but in general.
It's weird, because I honestly feel way more sluggish and slow in pretty much all the over-the-shoulder games. Maybe it's just because the way that the engines and graphics work these days, they try to make it look more realistic. Even something like a quick turn, they take so long to just, turn around, and in the original games it just seemed like, bam, you're turned around, run. It just seems so much quicker and more agile, and everyone in 4 is just slogging around, and ugh.
I think part of it is also that with the change in perspective comes the kind of, your relative ideas of size and speed change from perspective. Like, if Resident Evil 4 is a first-person game, it would, again, feel very different.
See, and I
slower,
think
depending.
Reasons like this is why you really can't say one is objectively better than the other. They're extremely different. There's like, no comparison. They are two different genres of gameplay, as far as I'm concerned.
I can say I have died more than any other control scheme to the tank, like...
Well, you gotta get good.
Controls. The Dark Souls argument. I have died less in Dark Souls than I did in the original Resident Evil.
Yeah, and honestly, I think I'd say I died way more in OTS games.
Huh. It's that skill set.
Honestly, though, maybe that's because there's a lot more bullshit instant deaths in the later games.
Yeah, there were a lot more quick time event, like instant death horse crap.
So yeah, I don't know if I can honestly blame like the camera, but yeah, I've definitely died more still in later games.
I mean, I suppose I'm measuring it on the fact that I've never had to say, aim at the goddamn thing I'm telling you to when doing OTS. It's like, oh, I missed my aiming because it was me, not because the character was being an extra special person.
Well, see, that I feel the opposite on that, too. I feel like when I die in any of the older games, it's usually my fault. I didn't bring the right items, I didn't watch my health good enough, I didn't assess the situation good enough. And then in 4 Beyond, it's either quick time bullshit or, like, the aiming goes haywire, or I don't know. I haven't...
Punch the boulder!
Yeah, punch the boulder. I honestly haven't even played any of the quote-unquote modern games in a while. Like, I just don't care.
But I mean, so you do enjoy it. You feel that the controls are more precise for you, and therefore you have a more enjoyable time of it because you feel like you are more in control with the fixed camera.
Yeah,
and
it just looks it makes the atmosphere and cinematics and just everything is just better for me.
It's true. I would say in games like Silent Hill would not benefit from an over-the-shoulder camera.
Which they eventually did because it's popular.
Of course they did. But Silent Hill was never meant to be like... I would defend this in saying that none of the characters in Silent Hill were designed to be like trained combatants.
That's very true. They were just dudes. Yeah.
Whereas I feel that my character missing because he can't aim when he's a trained police officer and controlling like garbage is silly.
I still don't really like... I mean, did you only play the original Resident Evil that didn't have the aiming? Because otherwise...
I played 1 and 3.
Okay. Because, yeah, like, I can't wrap my hand around how you're, like, missing. Because, at most, like, the biggest problem with aiming I think I've ever had in the older games is if there's a bunch of enemies and you want to shoot a specific one, sometimes it's tough to do that. Because another one will get in the way. But, I mean, I guess the same can be said for any game. Like, if one enemy's in front of the other, well... you're shit out of luck.
Nah, you can shoot them between legs. But yeah, but that's the thing is, like, if 2 zombies are standing in a row in, like, even Resident Evil 3, you're going to be shooting the one in front of them.
Right.
Whereas, with an over-the-shoulder perspective, you can wait until one of them shuffles and moves In fact, there's mechanics about it in 4 where you have to aim carefully to not shoot Ashley, but shoot someone else who's
Right,
in
yeah.
front of or behind her.
Again, I just say it's just a completely different genre of
It
gameplay.
honestly should have been like, they shouldn't have had police necessarily. If they had honestly tweaked some things and just made it more of a puzzly game, then oh hey, you have shotguns and rocket launchers and magnum freaking anacondas, I think it would have suited itself much better. I think people would have looked more favorably upon the control scheme, because it does work in melee combat. Silent Hill again is the example. The guns are kind of you can twat people with sticks pretty good in Silent Hill 2. And again, it's less about the enemies.
Yeah.
But then again, the writing in Silent Hill 2 is, please take no offense to this, much better.
Yeah, like I would say that Silent Hill has a much better story, deeper characters overall.
Yeah, so it is less about the frustration. Like, I don't think I died much in Silent Hill 2 at all. Except a Pyramid Head when I got caught in a corner once, but that was me, you know, on like 2 unnamed energy drinks and no sleep.
Yeah.
But, you know, I feel that both control schemes would work in a world, but they're suited to do very different game types.
Right.
Like, I have seen some, specifically horror games. It would have to be, like, atmospheric horror works with a fixed camera.
Yeah, definitely.
But they have to have some smooth turning for the characters for the pursuit thing.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I've played a lot of good games that way. Just for some reason in Resident Evil 1 and 3, it felt, maybe it's the way they planned the game, but it felt very sticky.
Like, the first Resident Evil definitely has aged the least well out of the bunch.
I will admit that is the only one I completely finished.
Oh, yeah. Like,
I
just mainly just with the controls and stuff. Just like, pretty much with each game they made, they steadily improved it until they just completely jumped the shark and made something new instead.
Mm-hmm. Which, realistically, they should have just renamed the series.
Yeah. I think it would have been successful, like, because it was revolutionary, I think. So. Yeah,
I mean, you didn't need to. Well, maybe you did. I don't know.
That's just what they do, though. I mean, it's the same thing with 7 all over again. They use the title because they know it'll sell, because people just buy anything.
Now, before we get into the what they did with specifically 5 and 6 and the forced AI and the bizarre crap they did, we'll get into that. I wanted to talk a bit about which one is your favorite in the series. Now, I never played any of the sister games like Code Veronica or Veronica X. So which one?
2 is my favorite.
2?
Yeah.
The one I never played, of course.
Yeah.
Now, why is that one in particular your favorite over all of them?
I mean, I obviously have some bias because it was the first one I ever played, and that was when I was, like, first getting into video games in general. Like, before that, I had only had a Super Nintendo and played Donkey Kong, but, like, that was about it. And then I was in about, I think, middle school, and it came out, and I just saw this commercial, and I was just fucking entranced by it. I was like, oh my god, what is this? They're zombies, and they look like real people. I need to get this. So I did eventually get it, actually on Nintendo 64. Somehow they managed to cram that whole fucking game in a cartridge.
Which is impressive.
Yeah, it was fuzzy as hell, but I played the shit out of that game.
Oh, I just realized you played it on one of those god-awful N64 controllers.
Well, you could use the D-pad, so it wasn't that bad.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, the stick was unbearable, no.
Yeah, no, the N64 was fun and all, but that controller, man. Yeah, I remember the commercials, because, you know, you and I are roughly the same age. I do remember the commercials specifically for 2, and all the magazine ads, because I was subscribed to PSN at the time.
Oh, see, I didn't have anything like that. I just had the TV, and I was like, oh.
They had a whole section of, like, maps and weapons and shit. Like, I know the secrets of Resident Evil 2 and the infinite ammo guns, despite never having played it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Resident Evil 2, honestly, aside from Nemesis, but Nemesis got a different kind of publicity. Like, Resident Evil 2 was like, oh, cool zombies and shit. And Nemesis was like, hey, look at this girl in a tube top.
I think it was more like, hey, look at this big fucking monster that chases you the whole time. Remember the bitch from Resident Evil 2? He's permanent now. Like, oh shit.
Yeah, Nemesis is a pain in the ass.
I like that one too.
Now, I do want to discuss a bit of an odd duck in the series that I did play. It was on the Wii. Can you guess which one I'm talking about?
What, the
It's
dark?
unlike the others in the series.
The Dark Side games? Or the Chronicles games, I mean?
I played the original Umbrella Chronicles.
Yeah.
Because I was big into light gun games, so I picked it up and I got the abridged history of Resident Evil.
Oh my, yeah, that's all it is, honestly.
I mean, it had that kind of like House of the Dead quality about it.
I never played those, but that's what I hear. Yeah.
It was it was things like, what could make this giant web as we're looking at a giant spider?
Yeah.
I'm like, alright. But it was fun for light gun games, but you never played it?
No, I have both of them, actually. But I think I played them once each, and that was about it.
They're fun with a friend.
Yeah.
Mind you, I like that aesthetic, the gothic aesthetic, so it appeals to me to have light gun games that way.
Yeah.
It, again, was no masterpiece. Fun, but it's not like, top 10 games of all time material sort of thing.
Did you play the sequel, Dark Side Chronicles?
I did not even know that was a thing.
Yeah, because then you could have got the abridged version of Resident Evil 2.
Oh, well, I missed out. We'll have to make a date of it. I'll rope your husband into it and be like, all right, Jack.
I don't even think those are like online. Isn't that like couch co-op only?
Yeah, no, we'll figure something out.
Just fly over to Finland. Yeah.
There you go. Sit down. We're playing on this Wii. Why? Because it demanded. So. Now, because we can both agree that it was just some mindless fun, which is always, unplug.
Yeah, the only thing that annoyed me was that they tried to tack on like new shit. Cause like, do you remember the part? I think it was in Rebecca and Richard's campaign where they look out the window and they just see like this tyrant thing and some Russian guy, and that never happened. They just like make shit up and stick it in, and they try to retcon, and it's like, shut up, idiot. You're not doing that.
There's some comic book writing. This happened this way now.
Nope. Not in my canon.
Not my canon. They should almost, I think, release like a complete collection, like they did with Crash Bandicoot recently.
Oh, don't remind me. Oh my god.
All it was shine it up.
Yeah, that's all it fucking needed, right? I look at Crash Bandicoot trilogy and I look at Spyro remake and I just want to fucking cry like, yeah, thanks for butt fucking Resident Evil 2 remake.
Well, to be fair, they've kind of fucked up Crash a bit. You want to know how?
Oh, what did they do?
They rounded his hitbox a bit.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Now, that doesn't sound like much, but did you play the original?
I played the third one.
Okay. Well, in the original was particularly hard because there were some jumps that was like, you had to use the very edge of your hitbox to make it. Like, we're talking about max jump distance landing on your pubes.
Yeah, like that bridge level or whatever.
Yeah, fuck the bridge levels. With the rounded hitbox, it became... I was playing it with my family, and I'm like, I don't remember this being this hard. And I found out later on that they had indeed, like, rounded the corners off his hitbox, which made it infinitely harder.
Oh, man. Yeah.
So, they couldn't even do that. I mean, it made more sense since they smoothed, like, rounded out the graphics.
Right.
But
yeah,
they should have made the jumps a little tighter then.
Yeah, that makes sense. Damn. But I get, but the gameplay itself is still the same. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly the same.
As it should.
Warts and all. I mean, there's some levels that I'm like, wow, I wish they hadn't remade this. But I want a remake of a game called friggin' Medieval. I don't care if they make it an over-the-shoulder first-person shooter, as long as they keep the little fun characters and story. That was a fun game. But anyways, moving on to your favorite topic, the forced co-op.
Fucking hell. We're cool, guys, look!
Partner. Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice for them to allow you to not do it with an AI.
Yeah, you want to know a great Resident Evil co-op game that had the option? Outbreak and Outbreak 2. Those were incredible.
Yeah, I don't remember how hard they were.
They are very fucking hard. Well,
it's because it was in the days of the PS2, and the PS2 had terrible internet.
Yeah. But you could play offline by yourself. Even I think you had to unlock the mode so that like you could play alone without even the AI, but it was still an option. It was still there.
It was a neat little thing.
Yeah.
Now the forced co-op, 6.
Oh,
Let's talk 6. So with 5, they had a story about these two characters. Fine. Well, good. That's what you decided to go with. Now you can correct me because you know far more about the canon, but it feels like they almost crowbarred certain characters into situations to have two characters there for the co-op.
Seems that way. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. I only played through 6 once because it was so bad I never want to touch it again, and I honestly didn't bother reading any of the files or anything. It was just like the game gave me a literal headache, and I just wanted it over. So I just muscled through it and haven't touched it since.
Resident Evil, like bad sex, just lay back and pray for it to be over. But no, I understand it. Like it did seem like some of the plots were forced. The way they handled herbs and inventory was weird.
Yeah.
Inventory in particular.
Yeah. Like, if I remember right, it kind of like... It didn't change, like, functionally, but they changed, like, the visual style, like, the aesthetics of it between each character and sometimes between different chapters, and it was like, what the fuck am I looking at? What am I doing?
It kind of messed a little bit. I mean, it was an interesting choice. They wanted to differentiate the characters.
I get,
With how rapidly some of the chapters switched.
Yeah.
It was kind of jarring. Speaking of inventory, this is something I wanted to bring up. When they made the switch from 4 to 5, or when they made the switch from 3 to 4, they got rid of the old tiny inventory, which I was never a fan of. Even Silent Hill, I mean, you had a limited inventory, but it wasn't that small.
Yeah, like you could pick up a shitload of bullets and stuff in Silent Hill.
Yeah. Whereas Resident Evil, I mean, particularly 1, if you play with Chris, dear Jesus.
Yeah.
3 less, Jill had a decent inventory, but in specifically Resident Evil 1, the Chris chapter, your inventory was like aggressively small.
Yeah.
I mean, I get they were trying to kind of raise the stakes, but holy crap, it just meant too much backtracking.
Yeah, I think that was like the smallest one, and they only did it with that one character. I don't even think I don't think Remake was that bad. I think they at least gave him a little more space. But
even then, they only had it to, I think, 9 items, even in the remake.
Yeah, it was still smaller than Jill's, but not so tiny.
Jill's was originally 9, which wasn't enough either. Now, when they decided to make the change from 4 to 5, they brought back that crap inventory system, or at least crap in my opinion.
I would say, like, it was even kind of worse than the originals.
Yeah, at least in the originals, bullets stacked.
Yeah. Like, in the original, aside from OG Chris, which was, like, very, very, very small, I didn't mind it too much because, like, it just kind of makes you think ahead. It's part of the game's challenge is, like, okay, I need to think, should I be a coward and bring a bunch of healing items at risk of needing to waste one to pick up a key item? And how many bullets should I bring? Which gun should I bring? It's almost like a strategy thing. And I don't mind it too much, as long as, like, you know, you can actually think through it.
That's why I actually appreciated in 4 the attaché inventory system.
Like, yeah, I'll admit the inventory in 4 was interesting, if nothing else. It was unique.
It made sense.
Yeah, it was like yeah.
Well, if we're talking about how much like a character can carry for the sake of like pockets or how strong they are, it doesn't make sense to me for a tiny herb to take up exactly the same space as a grenade launcher.
Yeah. Right.
Like, it just...
That makes sense. Honestly, I would say, like, they already fucked it up for RE2 Remake, but I would say, like, a perfect marriage would be if they took the item box from the original games and combined it with you having the inventory of Resident Evil 4, where, like, you have a box where you can store your extra shit, but then what you have with you is some form of, like, you know, an attaché, however the hell you say that.
Yeah, however it would make sense, like combat vest. That's, oh my god, and I wanted to specifically bring this up. I know other reviewers have brought this up, but it warrants speaking. So when my friend AJ and I originally played Resident Evil 5, I saw the body armor, and now you see where I'm going with it. And I'm like, oh, that seems cool to take less damage. Oh, my body armor takes up a slot.
Yeah.
I'm carrying my body armor in a pocket of my body armor.
It's really fucking dumb.
Yeah, that was awful.
I'll say one positive thing about 5's inventory is that I do like the quick weapon select. I like that. For an action game especially, that was nice. But the actual, like, inventory itself is like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah. Well, you could have as easily assigned it to hotkeys.
Yeah, exactly.
I did like being able to switch on the fly. It was like, oh crap, they're up close, shotgun. Oh crap, they're far away, rifle.
Yeah. But then the actual space you hold it in is like, oh, fuck.
my green herb is the same size as I can hold 9 green herbs, or I can hold 200 assault rifle rounds. That makes sense. So yeah, honestly, there would be a good marriage between the size-based attaché case.
Yeah, you could take fives quick select, take 4s like attaché case that you keep on your person, and the originals item boxes, and you got some good shit there. But they're never gonna do that, I guess. I don't know.
I will admit, I did in 4 miss the kind of exploration. I mean, I had like the exploration to just find new shit. But in Resident Evil, there's that whole like almost Metroidvania-y thing of like, oh, I saw this door earlier. This will unlock with this.
Yeah, I remember like before the internet was really a thing, there would be people online, let's say, that to that day they didn't know like what a certain door went to. Like, I never opened that. I have no idea where it goes. It's just like, oh, that's cool. But
yeah, the exploration was fun.
Yeah, but 4 and on, mostly just hallways. Very little exploration. Very little backtracking, which I don't mind backtracking. I think backtracking, when it's done right, it can be.
Yeah, you
like actually, yeah. 4 did do one instance of like quote unquote backtracking, where like I don't even remember the instance, but like somehow you end up back in the village areas and it's nighttime, and that was pretty cool because it's like raining and it's like, oh shit, it's like different now. Fuck, and it's creepier.
Yeah, I do remember that. It's funny when I think about it, the original Devil May Cry actually had more backtracking than, like, Resident Evil 4.
I haven't played that in years. I don't remember.
I just replayed the remake. Or, well, the remastering, rather.
Yeah. not the short, black-haired douche edition, right?
No, not that one. They would kind of always... I forget what it's called. There's a phrase for it, like, it's something's gun. Where basically, it's like, oh, I found a door with like a trident indent, and you're playing, you're going forward, you're like, oh, I found the trident. Oh, cool. I'm gonna go back and go open that.
Yeah, it's really fulfilling. It's just like, oh fuck, I finally found that. This is gonna be a thing now.
I think that's part of why Metroidvania games are one of my favorite genres.
Yeah, do they do that a lot?
Oh, yeah, it's like, early on you'll see a ledge you can't reach, like, no matter how you try. And then you're like, oh, man, I wonder what, like, goodies are up there, And it's when you're low level and you're like, oh, I need something better. And then you eventually get the double jump, and you're like, where are all those places? And you go back and you're like, oh, this place, oh, cool, it's got a new cool power thing.
Yeah.
It's like, what goodies are back there? I want to know. Yeah. Well, the secret is to have something neat behind, because if you have just, like, stupid back there, it'll be like, oh, man.
Yeah.
But if you populate it with mostly, like, at least interesting things, people will be excited to be like, oh, there's usually cool stuff and the stuff I can go back to.
And yeah, I think it's honestly the first Resident Evil did that probably the best. Like, when you think you're finally out of the mansion, you think like, yeah, fuck those locked doors, I'm leaving. And you go to the garden and you're trying to escape. And then you realize in the guardhouse, it's like a dead end. And it's like, oh, here's the key to unlock all the fucking doors in the mansion. Shit, I gotta go back. Like, not in a bad way, but like, oh shit, I'm scared. Or even if you're not scared, you think like, oh, no problem, I killed and I know how to dodge all the zombies there. And you go back, and the music's different, and there's a new enemy, and it's a fucking hunter, and it's like, oh my fucking god. It's like the scariest fucking thing. It's like, oh shit, it's like a whole new mansion. God damn it.
Yeah, that reward for... I feel it's a reward for becoming familiar with your surroundings. Like, I remember where that ledge was or where that door was.
Yeah.
Especially when it's like, I mean, sometimes it's essential stuff like, that key you have to do to progress the game, but sometimes it's like, I got the double jump, and, this shit that's non-essential.
Right.
You can beat the game without, but are pretty cool to go and find.
Yeah.
You need to play Symphony of the Night, Leggy. You are missing out.
Yeah, maybe someday. I just never had the Castlevania games growing up.
I'll have to tie you down and force you to play. Just handcuff you to the chair and be like, you don't get the key until you beat the game.
Shit.
But so yeah, the inventory was always kind of a... I think that's part of what made me like the tank controls less too, was because it was like, because it was kind of tedious to wiggle your way around corners. And when I ran out of inventory space and had to go grab like 2 or 3 things out of the box and switch out necessary stuff, and then I get blindsided by a zombie.
Yeah.
It was frustrating to have to carry all that and like walk awkwardly down hallways. Ultimately, I still remember the games fondly. I just feel that different control schemes served at least the combat portion better.
Mm-hmm.
But, that's just my opinion. I mean, it's an opinion a lot of people share, but that's, everybody's entitled to... It's important that you have fun doing it.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, Resident Evil 2 Remake might turn out to be fun. You never know.
Maybe.
We'll see. We should stay optimistic. Well, we should at least stay... I would have said optimistic, but then if it turns out to be garbage, we'll be disappointed.
Yeah. That's kind of what I'm trying to avoid. I'd rather just be apathetic.
I mean, I do kind of understand you. Here's my theory. I think that the reason you're kind of leery of the over-the-shoulder camera is because there hasn't been an over-the-shoulder camera Resident Evil game that has felt like a Resident Evil game.
Exactly, and they've all been, no matter what they try to say, they've all been action through and through, with the exception of, like, the intro of RE4.
There is one, it's the one where the creatures are kind of nautical themed.
Revelation?
Yeah, Revelation.
On the
I
boat?
hear that does the I hear that does the over-the-shoulder camera, but it does more of a standard Resident Evil kind of experience.
You see, people say that, and I think they just say that because they were desperate for an actual Resident Evil experience, because I played it, and it just felt like 4. Like, at most, the one thing they did right is that enemies don't drop ammo anymore, because it makes no fucking sense. So they did that right.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, come on, they had dogs
out.
Dropping ammo in RE4, for fuck's sake.
There's a game called The Bard's Tale that makes fun of that. It's kind of a satire game, but you're narrated by a narrator, and early on, you kill a wolf, and the narrator's saying what's going on. He's like, the wolf has died, and then disgorged a sack of gold and 3 pairs of pants. That's absurd. He's like, I'm not narrating these parts anymore. And the bard's like, wait, no, that's my primary source of income.
Yeah, like, I guess I couldn't tell you why, but it just works in, like, MMOs. In a game like that, Resident Evil, it just makes no sense. Like, it would make sense if they added in maybe, like, RE2 Remake. If the police officers have ammo that you can pick up off of them after they die. That would make sense, but... If you're killing, like, a licker or a dog and they have ammo, fuck yourself. That's fucking dumb.
I just picture the Umbrella Scientist cramming ammo boxes into the monsters. I mean, makes as much sense as, hearts dropping from candles.
Yeah, but...
But that's a different genre of game.
Right, exactly. That's one of the annoying things about Resident Evil. It's like you gotta decide, are you gonna be realistic-ish or not? Like, I understand that, yeah, it's a ridiculous plot, like a virus making zombies in general and monsters, but it's also supposed to be, like, grounded in reality at the same time. But then you do video gamey shit like that, and it's like, what? Doing?
Yeah. Now, I think the plot got less believable over time. Not even necessarily... It's because of the basis of the plot. How many times can you cause a zombie apocalypse and still want to offer that up as, like, a viable... Like,
right, that's another reason it should have just ended. Like, it's getting a little ridiculous at this point.
We know we've fucked this up 5 times, but this time the world won't end.
Yeah, honestly, and they finally realized, oh yeah, Umbrella's bad, so they got rid of him, but they kept making games for some reason.
Yeah,
so I should have just ended with Umbrella being taken down, and that's it.
Yeah, and then they should have made other game series. Yeah. Even 7, which is good from all accounts, should have been something else.
Yeah, definitely.
Mind you, a lot of game series do that, like Assassin's Creed, dear God. Oh my God. Let's not get into that. That's another episode. But anyways, so I can see why you do enjoy the originals. They had a certain atmosphere to them. Like, it wasn't as good as Silent Hill, but they were trying. God bless them.
Well, ironically enough, Silent Hill, basically Konami was like, alright, this team, make something as good as Resident Evil 2. Make a horror game. They were like, fuck. And they were gonna just copy it, but became a passion project, and Silent Hill happened.
The original or the second one?
The original.
The original, still good. But 2 was a masterpiece.
Yeah,
at least writing-wise.
That's everyone's favorite. But still, like, I think, even horror-wise, even, like, the original Silent Hill just pretty much nails it. That's the kind of game that you need to take a break from, because it's like, it's getting a little too crazy. I need to go take a breather.
Yeah, there's a few animes that do it to me. Like, I need to sit down and digest what just happened.
Like, not even the plot, just like, I don't want to go into this room. I'm gonna go save instead and take a break.
I did that sometimes with Resident Evil. I'm like, I need 5
Oh yeah,
minutes.
me too.
Do I have enough tape to save?
Yeah.
Now that is something that's always bothered me, is the limited saves.
I guess that's understandable. I remember when 5 came out, I was so adamant against autosaving because it just feels like hand-holding. Like, I know how to save my game. I don't need fucking checkpoints in my horror game.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Autosaving, no. Although, Amnesia has autosaving and it works pretty well.
Well, I guess Amnesia just flows better. You're not interrupted by combat army cutscene every however many minutes.
Too many cutscenes in 5, Jesus Christ. And almost too many cutscenes in 4, too.
Yeah.
I think that might have been part of it, too, is the original 3 had way less cutscenes.
Yeah. They just let you play. Get to the point.
Do your thing. Cutscene here and there to explain shit. I almost think some games nowadays are too cutscene heavy.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Like, I appreciate the cinematic and I appreciate you telling a story.
No offense, Metal Gear. Shit.
All offense meant to Metal Gear. Holy crap. Now, to get into the big noodle question, the one I'm always going to ask.
Okay.
So, 2 is your favorite. What originally drew you to the genre? I mean, out of all the games, there's a lot of other good games that came out at the same time of different genres. What brought your attention to this specific game, this specific genre? What is it about it that drew you to it, and then you enjoyed it enough that you basically created this entire fandom of, the Resident Evil musicals and stuff like that? I
mean, I guess it's weird. It's probably less about the game and more about just who I was at the time. Like I said, I had only had like a Super Nintendo, and I played very colorful and kid-friendly games and all that shit. I guess just in middle school, like, I started to just... I guess I was just an edgy tween, honestly. and I see this commercial that's like dark shit, and I was just like, wow, that's really cool. That's honestly probably all it boiled down to in the start. I wanted to stop being, like, a kid, and I wanted to enjoy something that seemed more adult and real and scary, and I was like, yeah. And I saw that damn commercial, and I was like, holy fuck, that's what I need.
And then you ended up playing it, and what kept you? Like, clearly, so you had that first idea of wanting to grow up, it being almost a rite of passage for you. But then you played it, I don't know how soon after that, and you obviously clung to it. Now, is it the fact that it's tied to that event that it kind of holds us? But you would replay it and enjoy it, I imagine.
Oh yeah, still. Yeah.
So that's what we call the nostalgia test. If you replay it and you still enjoy it, it's less about who you were at the time and more about the game itself. What is it, do you think, about that game that stuck with you?
And pretty much everything. Like, it was a genuinely scary game. Like, going in, playing it, I don't have internet, I don't have strategy books, I just go in blind, and that shit was scary, first playing that. It was just like, what the fuck is behind this door? How much ammo am I gonna be able to find? Honestly, the very first playthrough I did, I almost couldn't beat it because I was so shitty at handling my ammo and finding ammo that I had 3 magnum bullets and a knife for the final boss. I was like, oh fuck. I saved like 22 plus times. It was ridiculous. It was like I got an F- when I beat it. But so yeah, it was just genuine scary figuring out puzzles. I felt really like, I mean, I guess nowadays people would say the puzzles are so easy. Like, by now I don't know if it's because they genuinely are easy or if it's just because it's fucking 2018 and everybody knows the whole game inside and out. But at the time I felt just accomplished figuring shit out, like, holy shit, this goes here. Stuff like that.
Those are feelings that you really can't duplicate, and it is very fun. I mean, I do remember playing the original. I played the director's cut. And yeah, the first zombie, like, I'm like, because I played as Chris. Because again, I didn't know that I wouldn't have a gun. I didn't know about the inventory.
Right.
It's just like expert marksman. I'm like, down. I'm down. Expert marksman.
Sign me the fuck up.
Pretty much. I'm like, he sounds like he will survive easier. So just having the knife
technically
to fight that first zombie,
yeah.
and turning around, I was like, when I realized I only had the knife, I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, even then, it's like you don't realize, like, am I supposed to fight this? And it's like, oh fuck, maybe I'm not supposed to. Because usually, like, all the games I'd played before that, there wasn't really anything like that. It was just stomp on enemies or shoot them or whatever.
Right.
Kill everything, go by it. This was like, oh my god, I feel like I'm in danger. Oh shit.
Resource management was one of the first ones, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, what lent it at the time.
Yeah.
To what it was. I remember when that hallway where the dogs bust through the windows. Holy crap.
Yeah.
This was before this was to reveal a bit about myself. This is when I was such a high-strung youth that the random battles in Final Fantasy would spook me.
Oh.
Part of it was because Final Fantasy VII was my first like level-based RPG, because I had played like Zelda, and I had played like Alundra and stuff where grinding really wasn't a thing except for money. And I played like Castlevania again, where it's skill-based and grinding for levels isn't a thing. So Final Fantasy VII was my first proper what we call JRPG. And so I didn't get the concept of like just fighting crap to level up. In fact, I was avoiding fights because eventually they got hard. And I'm like, oh crap, I don't want to contact any fights so I don't die before I get to a save point. And so they would speak to me and be like, "Cha!" Now it doesn't even faze me at all. But it used to be, I was very easily startled person. Nowadays, there's games that exist just to startle you.
Yeah.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Resident Evil 7.
That's kind of pretty jump scary.
It was very VR gimmicky, I would say.
Fair enough. I mean, it didn't have Outlast. I mean, it had a lot of gore, but it did not have Outlast 2's problem of just being gore, basically.
Oh yeah, a little too much edge.
Too edgy. it lacked the blood.
Well, I would say even this is so off topic. Sorry, but I would say RE7 compared to the previous ones was definitely a little edgelord try hard. Like, look how everything's decayed and everything. You're eating intestines. And there's a little girl screaming in your face. Like, okay. Okay. Yeah, look, a evil cursed baby doll with black shit coming out of its eyes. Bleh. Like, okay.
You know what I think part of that comes from is because Japanese horror does do a lot with like dolls and stuff. Because dolls are a prevalent thing in their culture. I think that was America trying to emulate that too much without understanding, like, a lot of that is cultural context. Yeah, because
I think the writer for 7 was the guy that did Fear, right? And everyone's like, oh, that's why there's yet another evil little Satan girl.
Evil little girl. I think you are correct.
Yeah.
But
it's a little tropey for my tastes.
I mean, tropey can work sometimes. The chainsaw was a given.
So
I honestly think the shovel's far more effective of a weapon. Like,
I know, damn.
Him chasing me with that shovel, I was like, fuck.
Yeah, I'm fucking done with chainsaws. If you couldn't tell.
Yeah, they're a little overdone.
Again, that's just every game after 4 trying to ride the 4 hype of Dr. Salvador. Yeah, no, you already did that. You can't do it again. It's done. It's dead. You killed it.
It's like eating the same dessert every night. Even if it's just made of the same ingredients, it won't taste as good. So I am glad we got this insight into why that game was so important to you, and your Noodle raved a bit about your Noodle. Raved a bit about why that was important to you.
Oh, and just the characters were great too. Just to tack that on.
Leon, correct me if I'm wrong. Ada was in Resident Evil 2, correct?
Yep.
Ada Wong.
Exactly. That you know exactly who she is. The spy. Yeah. Who could she be?
It's like to kind of derail the topic. Coach Ferratu, and there's so many, series. The one that springs to mind is Rick and Morty. Not to ride the hype train. That's just what I've watched recently. The joke about Coach Ferratu. I don't know if you've seen the show.
Oh, I've seen it, but I don't remember.
So they make a joke about there's this whole vampire hunt going on, and it's like, who would have thought it was Coach Ferratu? And I'm like, well, everybody.
Oh.
It's that thing where you say their name and bam,
Whoops.
It's not me, Hitler. So, ultimately, do you think it would serve them better to do a straight-up tank control style remake, or if they would give the option for both control styles?
Well,
Mind you,
we're already beyond the point of it ever getting like a solidified, faithful remake.
I mean, you know, we can program shit.
Because
let me go learn C++.
Well, yeah, but like have you played that extra mode in 5 that was called Lost in Nightmares?
I have not.
All right. Well, it's basically prequel story about like that whole cutscene where Chris and Jill confront Wesker in that mansion or whatever. You remember that?
I do.
Where he kills Spencer, yeah. It's about that. You pretty much just play through their trek through the mansion to find Wesker, and then that cutscene plays out. But there's this option at the beginning. If you inspect the front door like 5 times or something, you can switch the camera into classic fixed camera mode, and it's fucking unplayable.
Oh, well, there you go. I was about to say they would have to program it almost for 2 different types of games.
Yeah, and that's what kills me. Like, nobody seemed to fucking understand that when they first announced the Resident Evil 2 remake. Everyone was like, oh, just have the option for both, and then everyone will be happy. And it's like I don't even make games, like, not real games, and I'm like, you would have to program 2 completely different play styles to make one or the other work.
Yeah, because even enemy spacing and
yeah, you'd have to reprogram and redesign just everything. Like, it is not that simple. If you just add the option, one style or the other is going to get fucked over. And obviously at this point, it's the classic style that's going to get fucked over. So, as RE6 would say, there is no hope left. Classics are dead and done. This was like their big moment to like give any of their classic fans left like something that they wanted, and they blew it. It's pretty much done. There's like no chance of it happening. Not well anyway.
We'll see. We'll see how if basically they just do like a point for point remake, with the exception of like the control scheme. I imagine.
Like if they did what Remaster did, that would be great. But they didn't.
Cross our fingers, right?
So yeah, they fucked it up. Whoops.
Whoops. You ruined her childhood. There's a college humor sketch about that. But anyways, well, thank you for coming on the show and giving us all things to think about.
You're welcome.
And,
I'm sure plenty of people are gonna be angry and send death threats.
As always.
Remember,
guys, it's okay to like different things.
Yeah, like I guess I'll say the disclaimer that if you like over-the-shoulder camera, I don't think you're stupid and I don't think you're wrong. I'm just personally disappointed that Resident Evil Remake 2 did not follow suit of the original remake, because it was more or less promised, but we didn't get it, and it sucks, and we haven't had a classic game in over like 15 years, but what can you do?
I mean, hey, I prefer over-the-shoulder camera and she keeps me around. But well, once again, I appreciate that we eventually, we rambled for a bit, but we eventually reached that important point of it being part of your rite of passage into adulthood, as it were.
Yeah, and, apparently. I guess I hadn't really thought of it. but that's what it was. That
is what this podcast is for. It is. I hope every guest says that they hadn't really thought of it before.
It's magic.
Which is my goal, and this is to all the listeners out there. It is the little things sometimes that define things. I mean, people are like, oh, the little things aren't important. Don't sweat them. But sometimes it's healthy to think about them, because there's always something motivating us to make the decisions we make and to enjoy the things that we do. And sometimes analyzing that is important.
Yeah.
It tells us a bit of who we are. Like, you were clearly seeking a rite of passage into adulthood. It's those things those decisions that define us. We know we enjoy a thing. We know, if someone was drowning, what we would do, but we don't know why. And it is important it teaches us about ourselves, the why. Why would I help a person? Why wouldn't I help a person? What does that say about me? What principles do I hold important?
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Well, once again, let's have a big hand for Miss ShadowLeggy coming on the show.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, why not? Just edit in some applause later.
Yeah.
And Miss Leggy, thank you again. I deeply appreciate you doing this.
No problem.
And, to all you little and big noodles out there, keep your noodles boiling and think on the things out here. And I'm always open to suggestions about things you want to hear people think about. All right, well, take care and boil on.
Bye!
I stopped recording.